not giving the list of the incarnations. Since of course he gave, and then past times he was mentioning, which are going to happen in the future. That is the point here. And then Brahmaji says, neither I nor all the sages born before you know fully the omnipotent personality of Godhead. So what can others who are born after us know about him? Even the first incarnation of Lord, namely Shesha, has not been able to reach the limits of such knowledge, although he is describing the qualities of Lord with his 10 mouths. So here this is a very important verse, because now after this Brahmaji is going to tell how to understand the Supreme Lord. And because Narada Muni's question was about knowing the Supreme Lord, now from here it is explained. So what is we were discussing on this? Unless we understand the personal nature of this creation, we cannot understand it. So we have seen in the last 2 days also that everything has a personal aspect, because the Supreme Lord is a person. It's a personal aspect. If you say we are a dead matter, we are like firewood or some food for jackals and owls, then we are going to die. Because if you see everything as dead, the living entity dies. If it is related properly, then only it is possible to get an eternal life. So that is the system. Like how I am reciprocating, accordingly I can, how I am looking at this material world, based on that I can see it. So here we are seeing that this material world is, if somebody is dealing with the material world as dead matter, he is also going to die. That is the system. Now we are seeing here that Brahmaji is telling and Shastra is telling that is not the way to see the material world. To see the personal nature. Even like we discussed how instrument, when they are seeing, they are trying to be in resonance with it. And then we were discussing yesterday that the story of a minister. He was telling this person knows about the heart. So the point is that in order to understand God, I must first stop considering myself a dead matter. The first little condition that which we need. So modern way of learning, there are two ways only. One is this modern scientific way. I have to stop considering myself as dead. It's not just some molecules and atoms. I'm an assistant, I'm a person, like that. And we'll just read the translation and we'll come back to our discussion. So here, next shloka says, but anyone who is specifically favored by the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, due to unalloyed surrender unto the service of the Lord, unto the Lord, can overcome the insurmountable ocean of illusion and can understand the Lord. But those who are attached to this body, which is meant to be eaten by at the end by dogs and jackals, cannot do so. This is what Brahmaji is telling. Oh, Esham sa Esha Bhagavan Dayed Anantaha Sarvatmanashrita Pado Yad Nirvalikam Te Dustaram Atitaranti Chadeva Maya Naisha Maha Mamaham Iti Dhiya Swa Shragala Bhakshe. This is a very famous verse. This is that Lord, Supreme Lord is Dayad Anante and Sarvatmanashrita Pado Yadi Nirvalikam. So when I surrender, Sarva Atmana, by all means, without reservation, Ashrita Pado, when we surrender, then Yad Nirvalika, without pretension also, then only it is possible. Te Dustaram Atitaram Cha Deva Maya. We will able to cross over. So due to unalloyed surrender unto Supreme Lord, can one overcome the insurmountable ocean of illusion and can understand the Lord. Now this is what is people consider themselves as food for the jackals, dogs and jackals. they'll not be able to understand the Supreme Lord, not possible. And this is the point. But the method is what? Sarvatmanashrita pado yad nirvalikam. If a person, if if he does not surrender, it will not happen. But surrender completely. How? Sarva Atmana, with his soul, everything that he has. If everything, whatever he has, he gave up to Krishna, nirvalikam. Prabhupada says it is no pretension. Nirvalikam means that a person do not have any extraneous desires. He understands that the meaning of life is I have no other meaning of life other than Krishna. I am trying to comprehend God, but not that I want to feel good. I am trying to proceed from this initial false concept. What is that false concept? That I am the body, which implies that I am in charge of whatever is happening around. Everything should revolve around me. So we should first come to this resolution. Okay, I I am not the body. I am spirit soul. If I am spirit soul, that means what? I had to get rid of this aham mameti, this type of worldview. Everything is mine and my and mine. And with all my soul, I am ashrita. I should take refuge at the lotus feet, and I have no lies inside. That means no pretension, no duplicity, no hypocrisy. And then Krishna will take care of. He will take care, and then he will also help me to come out of this illusion. And very important thing, we understand that there is no other reason why he will not take care of me. He cares for those who surrender. Why will he not take care of the surrender soul? But yes, yeah, so Esha Bhagavan Daye Dananta. This is what is the point. He is very, very merciful. Krishna, he is taken care. Ananta means although he cannot be comprehended, he is infinite. Still, he can be understood. This is another point. He can manifest, he can be understood. Now, here further, this sloka, this is a very important. Prabhupada is also giving nice purport. So, this is what we have discussed from last 2 days. This is the shloka which we are discussing. We have to surrender. Surrender means a relationship, and we have to start surrendering from everything that is around the matter. Surrendering means to know we need to have a relation with that person, anything, any object also, even with bodily parts also. We'll discuss that. We'll just read some purports and we'll complete our conclusion of our discussion from last 2 days. The unalloyed devotees of Lord know the glories of Lord in the sense that they can understand how great the Lord is and how great is his expansions of diverse energy. Those who are attached to the perishable body can hardly enter into the realm of science of God. The whole materialistic world, based on the conception of material body as the self, is ignorant of the science of God. The materialist is always busy working for the welfare of material body, not only his own, but also those of his children, kinsmen, countrymen, community men, countrymen, etc. The materialists have many branches of philanthropy and altruistic activities from a political, national, international angle of vision. But none of the fieldwork can go beyond the jurisdiction of misconception of identifying the material body with the spirit soul. This is the problem. Misconception of identifying the material bodies. Unless, therefore, one is saved from the wrong conception of body and soul, there is no knowledge of Godhead. And unless there is no knowledge of God, all the advance of material civilization, however dazzling, should be considered a failure. And the way we are trying to get material knowledge is also a very dangerous way, because we destroy and try to gain knowledge. The knowledge which we gain by destroying will also destroy us. That's the formula. Right. Now this This is the most important shloka. 42nd. We have to remember this shloka also. We'll read one more. येषां स एष भगवान् दयेदनन्त सर्वात्मनाश्रितपदो यदि निर्वलीकं ते दुस्तरामतितरां च देवमाया नैषा महात्म इति धिया स्व श्रीगालभक्षे. We are, which is meant to be eaten by at the end by dogs and jackals, cannot do so. So this is not should be the understanding. We'll just take this two these verses and then we'll just conclude our discussion on this. O Narada, although the potencies of Lord are unknowable and immeasurable, I still know how to act through his Yogamaya potency. And similarly, the potencies of Lord are also known to us, to the all-powerful Shiva, to the great king of the atheistic family, namely Prahlad, to Swayambhu Manu, his wife Shaturupa, and his sons and daughters, namely Priyavata, Uttanapada, Akuti, Devati, and Prasuti, to Prachini Barhi, Vibhu, and Anga, the father of Vena, and to Maharaj Dhruva, Ikshvaku, Aila, Muchukunda, Maharaj Janaka, Kadi, Raghu, Ambarisha, Sagara, Gaya, Nahusha, Mandata, Alarka, Dunu, Anu, Ratideva, Bhishma, Bali, Amrutaya, Dilipa, Saubari, Utanka, Shibhi, Devala, Pippala, Saraswata, Uddhava, Parashara, Bhurishena, Vibhishana, Hanumana, Sukadeva Goswami, Arjuna, Arishtena, Vidhura, Sutadeva, etc. Because we all are surrendered souls, we know how the Lord acts through his potencies. This is a very important point here is all are surrendered souls. And it is not theoretical knowledge, they have realized knowledge. That is a big difference we need to understand. There is something called theory, there is something called realization. Prabhupada writes, all the great devotees of Lord mentioned above who flourished in the past or flourished in the present, and all the devotees of Lord who will come in future are aware of the different potencies of the Lord, including the potencies of name, his name, qualities, pastime, entourage, personality, etc. And how do they know? Certainly it is not by mental speculation, nor by any attempt by dint of limited instruments of knowledge. By the limited instruments of knowledge, either the senses or the material instruments like the microscope and telescope, one cannot even fully know the Lord's material potencies, which are manifested before our eyes. For example, the greatest scientists of the world are trying to reach the moon, the nearest planet, Chandrayaan 2, 3. But they have no ascertainable clue to how to reach it. And there are many millions and billions of other planets far, far beyond the scientists' calculation. But these are only the manifestation of Lord's material energy. What can the scientist hope to know of the spiritual potency of Lord by such material efforts? Mental speculation by adding some dozens of ifs and maybes cannot aid the advancement of knowledge. On the contrary, such mental speculators will only end in despair by dismissing the cause abruptly and declaring the non-existence of God. But right, the sane person therefore ceased to speculate on subjects beyond the jurisdiction of any tiny brain as a matter of course to try. And of course, he tries to learn to surrender unto the Supreme Lord, who alone can lead one to the platform of real knowledge. In the Upanishads, it is clearly said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never be known simply by working very hard and taxing the good brain, nor can he be known simply by mental speculation, jugglery of words. The Lord is noble only by one who is surrendered souls. Herein, Brahmaji, the greatest of all material living beings, acknowledges this truth. Therefore, the fruitless spoiling of energy by pursuing the path of experimental knowledge may be given up. This is what we are discussing from last 2 days. One should gain knowledge by surrendering unto the Lord and by acknowledging the authority of the person mentioned herein. The Lord is unlimited, and by the grace of the Yogamaya, helps the surrender souls to know Him proportionately with the advancement of one's surrender. Like that, we have to give up ifs and buts and trying to speculate. Because no matter how much we go, the Supreme Lord remains unlimited and the material nature remains unlimited. So there is no chance that we can understand the material nature. Te vai vidantyatidaranti cha deva maya Sri Shudrahu Nashabara api papa jiva yad abhuta karma paraya parayana shila sikshas tiryajana api kim shruta dharanaye. It says that surrendered souls, even from the groups leading sinful lives, such as women, the labor class, the mountaineers, the Shabras, or even birds and beasts, can also know about the signs of God and become liberated from the clutcher of illusory energy by surrendering unto the pure devotee of Lord and by following in the footsteps in devotion. All three shlokas are telling about surrender, surrender, surrender only. This is what we are discussing from last 3 days. Few more things I wanted to share. Like here, Brahmaji is telling that this is the way to understand. What does now when we start chanting? So all these people who are mentioned here, if they start chanting, what will happen when they repeat? The sound makes the mind is material. So when we are chanting, how can we understand something with all these methods? It is all material only. Now I am understanding. With what I am understanding? With my mind. How I am speaking with my voice. Both are material. Now with material thing, how can we understand something spiritual? That is another question, which is answered in 48. But we'll discuss now only. So we have how many shlokas in this? Okay, 53. We'll see how much we can cover. We'll see these are like important things. These are very important shlokas. So now how to understand this with spiritual thing? What does now how can we understand something with these methods? How can we understand something with the help of material sound and we make the material language? This is all English is material language. With the help of material mind. And it is because of his grace. Because if a person tries to meditate on God, he cannot, because by definition, what we meditate material mind only and material experiences only. If I say very beautiful, handsome face, immediately we have some understanding of handsome face within our mind. We say, oh, I should be like this, nose should be like this, hair should be like this. So I have my own imagination, I have my own understanding. My material mind has my own conception of what is beauty. And we start imagining with that only. And we are told God has lotus eyes. He is golden dhoti. His body is color of a thunderbolt cloud. Thunder cloud. And what we imagine? We imagine, yes. We have yellow color, we understanding. But what Krishna does, if we are meditating on these material things only, lightning, thunder cloud, and lotus flower, Krishna is thinking, oh, this fellow is meditating on me. Because Krishna is good. He is incomprehensible that we meditate on someone or something that arises there. But he feels because it is connected to me, he says, no problem. I will help him to understand about it. That is what is happening. So we'll just read to 3 this purport. This is very important shloka. Te vai vidanti atitaranti cha deva maya Stri, Shrudraho, Nashabara, Api, Papa, Jiva. It is actually applicable to all the Kali Yuga. It is not just Sri Sudrahuna because in Kali Yuga everybody is Shudra. Yad Adbhut, Yad, Yad Adbhutah Karna Parayana Shila Shiksha Tirjagjana Pikim Shrutadharanaye. He says by surrendering, all these people can understand. Prabhupada writes nice point. Sometimes there are inquiries as to how one can surrender unto Supreme Lord. The Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asks Arjuna to surrender. Therefore, persons unwilling to do so question where God is and to whom they should surrender. The answer to such questions or inquiries given herein very properly. The personality of Godhead may not be present before our eyes, but if one is sincere in wanting such guidance, the Lord will send a bona fide person who can guide one properly back home, back to Godhead. There is no need of material qualification for making progress on the path of spiritual realization. Like this famous incident of Giriraj Maharaj, yesterday also we're discussing. Giriraj Maharaj, first time, he was from very rich family, and he comes to meet Prabhupada. He was actually taking some spirituality, this that he was trying to read and understand. And on the ceiling where he is sleeping on the bed, he wrote, I am God, because it should not be like that. God is forgetting that he is God and it's an embarrassing situation. So just in case he kept it. And then first time he goes and he attends proper lecture, and after the class, Prabhupada asks any questions. Raj Maharaj raises his hand. And Prabhupada says, yes, he said, how can we know who is a bona fide spiritual master? And Prabhupada looks into his eyes, he says, it depends. If you want to become God or serve God. Then immediately understood. Prabhupada is not just answering me, he is also seeing what I am seeing on the ceiling. Prabhupada is able to see into my heart that there is this understanding that I am God. Immediately after that, after he comes and stays in temple and then he joins. After 1 year, Prabhupada comes again. Again, Prabhupada gives class. He was till that time he joined ashram. Now, with any questions, he again raises hands. Prabhupada says, yes, yes, I remember you. Last time when I came, you asked this question. How can we know who is a bona fide spiritual? That is, Prabhupada said that time I prayed that he is a good boy, he should become devotee. So here Prabhupada is telling something. The personality of man, Godhead may not be present before our eyes. But if one is sincere in wanting such guidance, the Lord will send a bona fide person who can guide one properly back home, back to Godhead. There is no need of material qualification for making progress on path of spiritual realization. In material world, when one accepts some particular type of service, he is required to possess some particular type of qualification. If I'm engineer, I need to have some talents. If I'm doctor, but in spiritual life, it is not like that. Without this, one is unfit to serve. But in devotional service, the Lord, the only qualification required is surrender. Finish. Such a easy thing. No need of any material. Just surrender and you are pure devotee. Surrendering oneself is in one's own hand. If one likes, he can surrender immediately without delay. And that begins his spiritual life. The bona fide representative of God is as good as God himself. Or in other words, a loving representative of Lord is more kind and more easy to approach. A sinful soul cannot approach the Lord directly, but a sinful man can very easily approach a pure devotee of Lord. And if one agrees to put himself under the guidance of such a devotee of Lord, he can understand the science of God and can also become like this transcendental pure devotee of Lord and thus get his liberation back home. For us, we cannot directly go to Lord. What is our way? We have to go through a pure devotee. So, realization of science of God and relief from unnecessary, useless struggle for existence are not at all difficult for the willing candidate, but they are very difficult for persons who are not surrendered souls, but simply speculate without any profit. Such nice purports. So this shloka is also nice. We will just read. सस्वत्प्रशान्तमभयं प्रतिबोधमात्रं शुद्धं समं सदसत् परमात्मतत्त्वं शब्दो न तद्यत्र पुरः कारणभवा किराठो मायापरै अभिमुखे च विलज्जमाने तद्वै पदं भगवतः परमस्य पुंसो ब्रह्मेति यद्विदुरजस्र शुकं विशोकं. What is realized as the absolute Brahman is full of unlimited bliss without grief. That is certainly the ultimate phase of supreme enjoyer, the personality of Godhead. He is eternally void of all disturbances and fear. He is complete consciousness of as opposed to matter, uncontaminated and without distinction. He is the principle of primeval cause of all causes and effects, in whom there is no sacrifice for fruitive activities and before whom the illusion energy being ashamed does not stand. This we have very big purport, but we'll just read few things from this. The supreme enjoyer, personality of God, it is the supreme Brahman or the summum bonum because of his being the supreme cause of all causes. The conception of impersonal Brahman realization is the first step due to its distinction from the illusory conception of material existence. In other words, the impersonal Brahman is a feature of the absolute, distinct from the material variegatedness, just as light is a conception distinct from its counterpart darkness. This is nice point. But the light has its variegatedness, which is seen by those who further advance in the light. And thus the ultimate realization of Brahman is the source of Brahma light, the supreme personality of God, the summum bonum of, or the ultimate source of everything. Therefore, meeting the supreme personality, the personality of God, it includes the realization of impersonal Brahman as realized at the first in contrast with material impurity. The personality of God is the third step of Brahman realization. Yeah, this is a nice point. Prabhupada says Pratibodha Matra is a conception just opposite to that of material existence. In matter, there are material miseries. And thus, in the first realization of Brahman, there is the negation of such material impurities. And then there is feeling of eternal existence, distance from the pangs of birth, death, old age. That is the primary conception of impersonal Brahman. Oh, this is Pratibodha Matra means the conception which is opposite to material existence. So material existence, what are the two things? There is suffering. So opposite to suffering is free from suffering. And in matter, there is birth, death, old age, and disease. Opposite to that is eternal existence. So Brahman has two things which are opposite to matter. That is what is Pratibodha Matra. That which is free from suffering, free from death. So there is eternity and free from suffering. That is the quality of Brahman. This we have to understand. Like we want to, if we want to get rid of miseries, means this is what is that? This is Jnana platform. Free from birth, death, old age, and disease. This is also Jnana platform. They are impersonal. This is nice point. The Supreme Lord is the supreme soul of everything, and therefore, in Him, the supreme conception of affection is realized. Now, there is another aspect which is there in Supreme Lord is there is affection. This conception of affection is due to the relationship of soul to soul. A father is affectionate to his son because there is some relationship of nearness between the son and father. But that sort of affection in the material world is full of impurity. When the personality of God is met, the fullness of affection becomes manifested because of the reality of affectionate relationship. He is not the object of affection because of some material things on body and mind, but he is full, naked, uncontaminated object of affection for all living and being because he is a super soul, the Paramatma within everyone's heart. This is also a very nice point. Said that A father is affectionate to son. Why? Because there is some relationship or nearness between the father and son. But this sort of affection metal is full of impurity because there will be always fight between father and son. But when the personality of God is met, the fullness of affection becomes manifested because of the reality of affectionate relationships, and which is full without any no reservations. Now, this is also nice. Proper is giving very wonderful understandings. As such, there is an unlimited flow of everlasting happiness without any fear of being broken, as we experience here in the material world. So, what is the problem in material world is there is always a danger of uh, the relationship to be broken, either because of misunderstanding or because of time factor. So there may not be misunderstanding, but time separates. After one time, the person dies. So there will be relationship broken. But the relationship with Lord is never broken. Thus, there is no grief. That is the wonderful thing. There is no grief of no fear. Because you can go on increasing your attachment. In this material world, if you go on increasing attachment to material people, material things, we have to end up in lamentation. Why people want to increase their material attachment and emotions for a people? Because that gives so much pleasure. Material relationship gives so much pleasure, and people want to experience. And more deeper the relationship, more close the relationship, more pleasure we experience. But there is a danger. More closer you have relation, more deeper, more painful also when it is separated, and it is going to be separated. Such happiness is inexplicable by words. When now there is fear also, because if you give your heart so much to somebody, there is always chance of getting exploited also. If you are attached and the person knows that you are attached, then the person will take advantage of it. That's what Duryodhana was doing with Dhritarashtra. Duryodhana knows that Dhritarashtra is attached to me, and whatever whimsical things he is telling, Dhritarashtra is doing only. Duryodhana always used to blackmail him. I'll commit suicide, call Pandavas and we'll play gambling. And Dhritarashtra could not do anything. He said, yes, yes, let us play gambling. This is the problem. If we are attached, then there is always uh, there is problem of exploitation also and grief also. But when it comes to Supreme Lord, no fear of exploitation. If you see Arjuna, he is fighting and Krishna is driving the chariot. If Arjuna is telling Krishna, I am surrendered to you, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is telling, okay, Karishya Vachanam Tava. And Krishna is telling, okay, now you surrendered, na? Now you you do whatever I say. And he's not engaging him in his personal service. Krishna is instead serving Arjuna. Even though Arjuna said, I am surrendered to you, Krishna is telling, okay, now you fight, I'll help you. That means what? There is no question of exploitation in spiritual world. And that is also another cause of fear. If I love so much, they'll exploit me. No, Krishna will not exploit. And the relationship will not break. There will not be any misunderstanding. Will Krishna misunderstand? No. In this material world, why misunderstanding comes? Because we go by externals. We cannot know the intention of person. That's why if I am doing or speaking something, doing, always the other person will doubt the intentions. That's why relationship, there will be problem. The only way we can nicely maintain relation in this world is we have to communicate properly. We have to clarify our intentions, expectations, communicate properly. In that way, we can at least maintain some relation in this world. But with Krishna, you need not even clarify also. Why? Krishna can know what is there in the heart. If you have good intention, it is all easy like that. So that's why there is no fear and no grief. Such happiness, so what happens, you can fully experience that peace. Such happiness is inexplicable by words, and there can be no possibility of generating such happiness in future activities. Being spontaneous, such happiness cannot be acquired through carefully arranged fruitive sacrifices. But we must also know that this happiness, the unbroken happiness, exchanged with the Supreme Person, the personality of Godhead, as described in this verse, transcend the impersonal conception of the Upanishads. In the Upanishads, the description is more or less a negation of the material conception of things, but this is not a denial of transcendental senses of the Supreme Lord. Herein, the Lord's transcendental senses are affirmed by the word Shuddham, uncontaminated, which indicates that the senses of personality of Godhead are not made of material elements, but are all transcendental, free from any contamination of material identification. And the liberated souls also possess spiritual senses. Both the Supreme Lord and liberated souls both have spiritual senses. And then Prabhupada writes, the senses in the material world are surcharged with material ignorance. In every way, the authorities have recommended purification of senses from the material conception. In the material world, the senses are manipulated for the individual and personal satisfaction, wherein the spiritual world, senses are properly used for the purpose for which they are originally meant, namely the satisfaction of Supreme Lord. Such sensual activities are natural and therefore sense gratification there is uninterrupted, unbroken by the material contamination because the senses are spiritually purified. Okay, now comes our 48th verse. In such transcendental state, Shraddhayan Niyamya Yatato Yam Krite Hetim Chuhuswara Iva Nipa Karnitram Indraha. In such a transcendental state, there is no need of artificial control of mind, mental speculation, and meditation as performed with the Gyanis and Nogis. One gives up such process as heavenly king Indra foregoes the trouble of digging a well. Prabhupada writes, a poor man in want of water undertakes the trouble of digging a well. Similarly, those who are poor in transcendental relations speculate with mind or meditate by controlling the senses. But they do not know that such control of senses and achievement of spiritual perfections are simultaneously made possible as soon as one is factually engaged in transcendental loving service. That means just Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojanati Asu Vairakyam Jnanancha. Knowledge and detachment will automatically come. Just do bhakti, that's all. No need of any speculation trying to do so many gymnastics. That is the reason. The example of Indra is very appropriate in the Krishna. King Indra of heaven is a controlling deity of demigod for arranging clouds and supplying rains in the universe. And as such, he does not take any trouble to dig wells. For him, it is ridiculous. There is sufficient water. Similarly, those who are fully engaged in loving service of Lord have attained ultimate goal of life. There is no enough mental speculation to find out the true nature of God like that. Sasreyasamapi vidura bhagavan yatosya bhava vihitasya sata prasiddhi de swadhuta vigamai Vinuvishramane Vyome Tatra Purusho Na Vishiryate Ajjaha. The personality of God is the supreme master of everything auspicious because the results of whatever actions are performed by the living being in either the material or spiritual existence are awarded by the Lord. As such, he is the ultimate benefactor. Every individual living entity is unborn, and therefore, even after the annihilation of the material elementary body, the living entity exists exactly like the sky within the body. So basically, this is telling how material body is eternal and we are just covered with external activities. Prabhupada writes, the living is entity unborn, confound in Bhagavad Gita 230. He gets another body. It is a duty of everyone, therefore, to worship devotedly only personality God to achieve his desired goal. That is another point Prabhupada says. So the devotees are therefore never advised to indulge in speculating upon the nature of Supreme as or artificially meditate on the void. They have to do devotional service. One should not, however, mistakenly think that after the annihilation of this present body, there is no body by which one can associate with the Lord face to face. The living entity is unborn. So these are few things Prabhupada is trying to explain. And so ayam te abhitastata Bhagavan Vishwabhavanaha Sama Sena Harer Nanyat Ayasmat Sat Asatchayat. My dear son, I have now explained in brief the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the creator of the manifested world. Within him, Hari, the Lord, there is no other cause of the phenomenal numinous existence. So Brahma has explained this to Narada Muni in a very detailed way. One should not deprecate the Supreme Lord for the creation of this material world, just as one should not blame the king for creating prison house. So today we had this question: why did Lord create this material world? The prison house is a necessary institution of the governmental establishment for those who are disobedient to the laws of government. Similarly, this material world full of misery is a temporary creation of Lord for those who have forgotten Him and are trying to lord it over the false manifestation. He, however, is always anxious to get the fallen souls back home, back to God. And for this, he has given so many chances to the conditioned souls via the authoritative scriptures, his representatives, and personal incarnations also. Since he has no direct attachment to this metal world, he is not to be blamed for his creation. We have two more shlokas, we'll take them. Idam bhagavatam nama yanme bhagavatoditam sangrahoayam vibhutinam tvam etad vifuli kuru. O Narada, this science of God's Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken to me in summary by the Supreme Personality of God, and it was spoken as the accumulation of his diverse potencies. Please expand this science yourself. So Brahma is telling Nada, I have told you in a nutshell, now it is your turn to expand. So Bhagavatam is a nutshell spoken by the personality of God in a half a dozen verses, which will appear ahead in the science of God in the potent representation of personality of God. So Brahma, there will be Chatushloka. Writing the Bhagavatam is Puran is therefore the direct incarnation of Lord in the form of transcendental sound, and one should receive this transcendental knowledge from the bona fide representative of Lord in the chain of disciplic succession, Brahmaji to Narada, from Narada to Vyasa, like that. Therefore, unless one hears the science of God from the bona fide representation in disciplic section, as above mentioned, for one is for one to understand the theme of science of Godhead will be difficult job. It should never be heard from the professional Bhagavatam reciters who earn their livelihood by gratifying the sense of audience. And we have two more shlokas. We'll complete them today. Only two are there. It says that Yataharor Bhagavati Nana Bhaktir Bhavishyati Sarvatmaya Akhiladhare Iti Sankalpya Varnaye. Please describe the science of Godhead with determination and in a manner by which it will be quite possible for human beings to develop transcendental devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Hari, the super soul of every living being and summum bonum, source of all energies. So this is the instruction Brahmaji is giving to Narada in these last three verses. He's telling, now you expand it, you explain in such a way that it will be understood by the people. Bhagavatam is the philosophy of devotional service and the scientific presentation of man's relationship with the Supreme Personality of God. So such a nice point Prabhupada is telling. Bhagavatam is a philosophy of devotional service and a scientific presentation of man's relation. Prior to Kali Yuga, there was no need for such a book of knowledge to know the Lord and his potent energies, but with the beginning of Kali Yuga, human society gradually became influenced by the four sinful principles, namely illegitimate connection with women, intoxication, gambling, and unnecessary killing of animals. Because of these basic sinful acts, man gradually became forgetful of his eternal relation with God. Therefore, man became blind, so to speak, to his ultimate goal of life. The ultimate goal of life is to pass a life of irresponsible, not to pass a life of irresponsibility like animals and indulgent polished way in the four animal principles, namely eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. For such a blind human society in the darkness of ignorance, Srimad Bhagavatam is the torchlight to see things in proper perspective. Therefore, it was necessary to describe the signs of God from the very beginning or from the very birth of the phenomenal world. So, this is the reason. Very nice point, Prabhupada. And then he mentions further, as we have already explained, Srimad Bhagavatam is so scientifically presented that any sincere students of this great science will be able to understand the science of God simply by reading it with attention or simply by regularly hearing it from the bona fide speaker. This is what we are trying to do. We are hearing from Prabhupada every day sincerely. Everyone is hankering after happiness in life, but in this age of the members of human society, blinded by as they are, do not have the proper vision that the personality of God is the reservoir of all happiness because it's the ultimate source of everything. Janma Disyata. Happiness in complete perfection without hindrance can be achieved only by devotional relationship with Him. And it is only by his association that we can get free from distressful material existence. Even those who are after enjoyment of this material world can also take shelter of this great sense. And therefore, Narada was requested by Brahmaji to do this. And last verse, Mayam Varnayato Amushya Ishwarasyanumodita Shunvata Shraddhaya Nityam Mayayatmanamuhyati. He says the Lord's activities in association with different energy should be described, appropriate, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly with devotion and respect, one is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord. Okay, we'll just take this last purport. The science of learning the subject matter seriously is different from the sentiments of fanatics. Fanatics or fools may consider lot activity in relation with the external energy to be useless for them, and they falsely claim to be higher participants in the material energy of Lord. But actually, the Lord's activities in relation with material energy and internal energy are equally good. On the other hand, those who are not completely free from the clutches of Lord's external energy should devotedly hear regularly about the activities of Lord in relation with the external. That means the creation we should understand. They should not foolishly jump up onto the activities Lord's internal energy. That means Leelas of the Lord. First, we should know about the creation Leela. Then they should go for Ras Leela. That's what purpose. They should not foolishly jump or falsely attract such activities of Lord. The cheap reciters of Bhagavatam are very much enthusiastic about the activities of Lord's internal potency, and the pseudo devotee absorbed in material sense enjoyment falsely jump to the stage of liberated souls and thus fall down deeply into the culture of material existence. So they had to hear other pastimes of Lord, Purusha avatars also, not just Rasalila. A conditioned show should not imitate activities of liberated souls. There is no difference. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never indulged in hearing Rasalila with ordinary people. So the last point proposed in Srimad Bhagavatam, the science of 9 cantos prepare is very important. Very important point. Prabhupada is telling, try to understand. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, science of God, first 9 cantos prepare the ground for hearing the 10th canto. This will be further explained in the last chapter of this canto. In the third canto, it will be more explicit. A pure devotee of Lord, therefore, must begin reading or hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from the very beginning, not from the 10th canto. That's what we are doing. From the beginning, we are doing. We have several times been requested by some so-called devotees to take up the 10th canto immediately, but we have refrained from such an action because We wish to present Srimad Bhagavatam as the signs of God, not as a sensuous understanding of the conditioned soul. This is forbidden by such authorities as Sri Brahmaji. By reading and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam as a scientific presentation, the conditioned souls will gradually be promoted to the higher status of transcendental knowledge after being freed from the illusory energy based on sense enjoyment. This is a very important point. What we are doing, either by hearing or reading, both we are doing Srimad Bhagavatam as a scientific presentation. This is our method of understanding is scientific. Prabhupada made it very scientific. The conditions will gradually be promoted to the higher state of transcendental knowledge. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purport of second canto, 7th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Schedule Incarnation, Specific Function. So, the lesson we learned here is we need to surrender to understand the Supreme Lord. So, that is a very simple formula that is explained by Brahmaji to Narada Muni. We cannot understand on our own. We cannot understand by the process which scientists are giving the speculation. We understand by surrendering to Supreme Lord. Thank you all very much. Tomorrow we'll start with